Our guest today, Ali Gulfaraz, he's an accomplished banker with over 25 years of corporate and investment banking experience. Currently, he's the CEO at Dubai Islamic Bank, Pakistan. Prior to joining Dubai Islamic, he served in several leadership roles at Bank of America and Mizuho Corporate Bank, London. Let's meet Ali Gulfaraz. Welcome, Ali. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Fariha. It's a pleasure to be here.
First question. Walk us through your career journey and the defining moments that you cherish and remember now.
Well, so firstly, I went to a university in California for my undergraduate degree straight after leaving my boarding school in Pakistan. Then, in between my undergraduate degree and my master's degree, I got a great opportunity to work at Apple Computer's global headquarters in Cupertino for 1 year. I went back to grad school, finished that, and decided to come back to Pakistan. And I ended up joining Bank of America over there in the corporate banking team. 3.5 years later, I was transferred to our EMEA headquarters in London, where I was initially transferred into the credit risk function. I spent about 4 years doing that. And I think the first interesting juncture after my transfer to London happened when I was being recruited by Barclays Capital in a senior credit risk position and with a big promotion and jump in compensation. But when I went to see the managing director on the business side, who I was supporting on the credit risk side, I went as a courtesy to him to resign, and he stopped me from resigning and leaving to join Barclays Capital and offered me a position in his team. So I switched back onto the corporate and investment banking team. And I did that without the promotion and at significantly lower compensation because I saw that as a better career move in the longer run, and it certainly ended up working out that way. Then, after completing 13 and a half years at Bank of America in London, I was again approached for a managing director position by another bank with a senior global role in London. And I went to see my same now boss, Andrew, to resign. And he stopped me from going again. And he said that I'm going to a big Japanese bank called Mizuho to head their global corporate investment banking in Europe. And I want you to come as my deputy. So the second time I thought about it and decided to let go of the opportunity and follow and continue with him. And that was a real franchise building opportunity. The bank was looking to develop its franchise in Europe. So they were putting capital to work over there. And so I spent 11 and a half years over there and then decided that it was time to perhaps head home again. And my wife and I had thought a lot about whether we were going to stay permanently in London. I spent 21 years over there. So we came to the conclusion that we did want to return. And if we decided that if we wanted to return, we should return at a productive stage of life. And so that's when I decided to return to Pakistan. I did initially to join the board of Fauji Foundation with responsibility for strategy and investment. And then later on got back into my main field of banking as CEO of Bank of Khyber, spent 2.5 years over there. And now, 5 months ago, I joined as CEO of Dubai Islamic Bank, Pakistan.
It's a great story, but I think two things you mentioned which are quite important. One, you said the first defining moment that you chose a different function, like a cross-functional move, although you were getting better money and promotion in another bank. And I think it's quite important, right? Especially when we are developing our career. And the second time when you eventually left Bank of America for another organization, so it was a different business model, probably working with different geographies. And it's quite important to remember these because money alone itself is not a great motivator. These are the nuances that one has to remember. And yes, of course, where your hometown is always something that you come back to.
Yeah, I think there is a difference between planning out your job and your career. And there can be moves that may have short-term implications in terms of better compensation and title, etc. But I think it's important to be strategic about planning your career, and I think that twice I made a difficult choice. The first time to let go of a big promotion and compensation increase, to change to the back to the front line of corporate and investment banking. And second time, I decided to follow my boss to a difficult franchise building job, whereas the alternative was to join a very well-established bank. So I think this ended up being a great learning exercise, and also gave me a chance to build a business, which certainly was very helpful. Experience as I took on a leadership role back in Pakistan.
So, Ali, what advice would you give to anyone watching this podcast in their 20s and 30s, or even 40s, right? And they have the similar um, situation where they want to build their international career, but they don't know where to start.
So the two primary routes to enter the international job market are either through being employed with an international company here in Pakistan, or to go abroad for a degree. So in my case, as you know, I was working with Bank of America here in Pakistan, and I got transferred to our office in London. So the young people that want to work internationally, I would say that these are the two primary routes. So you have to pick one of them. If you're not working with an international company over here, it's difficult, and without a degree. So if you go to do a degree in the US or Europe, for instance, you significantly increase your chances of getting employed over there. The third thing that I would say is that it's much easier to do this in your younger years than it is in your later years, because the more senior you become, your skills are more relevant to a particular market. So your ability to get a senior role in the international market, it becomes more challenging. So it's easier to move abroad at an earlier stage of your career and then progress through the ranks than it is to try and do that at a later stage. It's not impossible, but if you're doing it at a later stage, then perhaps from Pakistan, the markets that are more likely to be open to you are the MENA markets. So whether it's UAE or Saudi Arabia, etc. But principally, I think it's getting a degree or starting out with an international company over here and looking for internal transfer opportunities.
Right. And then moving to London, working with international teams, international customers, what did you learn in terms of your own personal resilience that is really important to work with the multicultural teams and diverse teams?
Yeah. So I think there are two aspects to it. One is working or leading, as in my case, leading a very, very international team. And then there's also the client aspect of it, working with clients from very different nationalities. So with respect to the team, I had perhaps more than 15 different nationalities reporting to me. And so the first thing to effectively lead a diverse multinational team is that you should be somebody who sees through the nationality, and you see the individual, and you see the value that they bring to the table. Because if you're not able to do that, and if there are any sort of judgments or biases that you have that come through, it is very difficult to do that. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I think there are differences culturally and in different nationalities, and you should be aware of and understand those. And I think this is perhaps a bit more relevant when it comes to interacting with clients. I had over the years, apart from heading our CIB business in London and in the UK, I had at various times headed our Italian operation, our French, our German, and then for many years I also headed the Nordic countries.
Sorry,
So
CIB is corporate investment banking.
that's right.
Okay, thank you.
So, for instance, there is a difference between the Northern European and the Southern European countries. So when you are going to meet with a client in Sweden, for instance, the meeting starts precisely on time. You don't want to be there early. Being early is as much of a problem as being late, and you get straight into the conversation. When you talk about Germany again, I would say that they are closer to the Nordic way of thinking. Meetings, you don't talk much about, there's no build up or small talk. You go straight into the conversation and they're very direct. When they like something, when they dislike something, it is direct and you have to know and process that because, they respond differently. And when you come across to Southern Europe, I once remember that, meetings in Greece or Spain or Italy, you talk about the weather, the football, and everything for half an hour, 45 minutes. And in the last 10 or 15 minutes, you get down to business and you actually achieve a lot. But if you don't develop that rapport and, you're not going to get anywhere. So a direct approach that works very well in Sweden doesn't work in Milan. So I think understanding those, and you get that from experience of working with different cultures. But I think that fundamentally you have to be able to see through the national differences to see, firstly, there are more things that are similar about us than are different. And then be able to adjust and fine tune your approach when dealing with clients based upon their nationality.
I agree, and that has been my experience also living in different countries. So now tell me one thing about feedback. Again, I'm going to ask from an HR perspective. When you're working in Europe or especially Northern Europe or US, it's easy to give and receive feedback, right? Very direct. And then you come to countries like ours, and it could be South Asia, it could be Middle Eastern culture. And now that you have relocated back, how do you deal with feedback? Is it direct, indirect, and what's the best way to manage that process without offending the individual?
Yes, I think if I was to say what is one of the main challenges I find leading, an organization in Pakistan, and I think it is getting the honest views of my leadership team. I think people are just much more interested in telling you what they think you want to hear. They're afraid of standing their ground and presenting a view if they think that that may be at odds with your own view. And so I think this is, to me, a challenge because the very purpose of the leadership team is there to present and discuss the various points of view so that we can make a collective decision, or we can make a decision based upon evaluating all of the information. So I think this is something that I try to encourage in my team. And if I see someone that's always just either agreeing with me or just trying to read my mind and iterating that, then I will try to push them to tell me what they really think, or I will hold my own views in a meeting until the very end and let everybody express their perspectives. So this is something that I think results also, in my opinion, in let's say, difficulty for our organizations to develop the same level of professionalism and growth, because there is this hierarchical approach that is built in, and I think that the best organizations around the world, they give their employees the independence to air their views without fear of consequences. And I think the best leaders appreciate that more than somebody who is always telling them what they want to hear.
Yeah, so I think that courage, but you're right, it comes from the top, right? If the top leader has fragile ego or just want to listen to what he or she believes in, then you can't really create that environment. But there's a flip side to it also. I believe sometimes people the passive aggressive. So they don't say anything and they become, then they don't know how to express their view and they become very aggressive. So I think there's a fine line in being courageous and having those constructive conversations, which I think you're right. I think this part we somehow, sometimes we don't know what that balance is.
Yes, I think, as I said, to me as a CEO, I want to know what my team thinks on various issues. And I want to be able to get all of their perspectives and then process that to what I think is the right decision for us. So if they're not airing their views freely and independently, then I feel that it affects my ability to take decisions.
Absolutely.
And so I think it starts out with encouraging them to express their views. And if you feel that they are consistently not going to do so, then maybe they're not the best person to be in that position, because especially in senior positions, you're there to have responsibility for a function, and you should have not only the courage, but you have the responsibility to also, where you disagree with the CEO's view, to air those. And, I mean, it is very much possible that either through lack of information or something, you may have a preconceived notion, you are leaning towards the wrong option. And it is very helpful to have somebody actually provide a counter perspective and maybe push you to reconsider. And I certainly value this attribute in my team a lot. And so if there is trust two ways, then I think they should feel comfortable doing that. So I think it is up to the leader as well to make sure that they feel that they are able to express their views freely without any consequences in the best interest of the organization.
Yes, and I think it's a very refreshing perspective, I can say, at least for this part of the world. So why did you pick banking as a career? You always wanted to be a banker?
It's interesting you asked this question because I had absolutely no sort of ideas about becoming a banker, and I drifted into this profession by accident. What happened was that after I'd completed my graduate degree, I came back to Pakistan. And I came back with a view to maybe setting up a business in partnership with a friend of mine who was a computer science graduate, also from the same university. And very soon I realized that the capital required to start the business I did not have. And so I came to the conclusion that I should head back to the US and look for something else to do. And at that time, I consulted my father, who said that you have returned to Pakistan after, I think it was 7 years in the US. You are single, you have no property, you have no ties to this country. If you go to apply for a visa right now, they'll think you're running back and you will most likely be rejected. And he was absolutely right, of course. So I thought about it and I said, okay, I can't do anything about not having any property in my name. I certainly am not going to get married just to get a visa. So that left the one option, which was to show ties to get a job.
Okay.
And as I had studied in California, Bank of America was the bank in California. It was originally headquartered in San Francisco. So I saw them in Islamabad and decided to go there and apply to get a job, initially with the principal objective of using that as a tie to get a visa to go back to the US. But then, as I got into it, I realized that I had an affinity for it, and I enjoyed the field, and so it stuck with me.
The rest is history, as they say. And you are happily married, and you've got two daughters now. So eventually, you also got married and sort of completed
That's
that
right.
requirement
That's
to
right.
to stay connected here.
That's right.
So you worked for an American bank, Bank of America, and then you moved to a Japanese bank. What was your major learning? Because they're two different corporate cultures, I'm assuming. So tell us your insights.
So I think as corporate cultures go, the Japanese and the American ones could not be further apart. There is, in the interest of business, hierarchy doesn't get in, it doesn't become relevant in the American corporate
Yes.
culture. But the Japanese corporate culture does have very established and formal hierarchy. And so I remember that in my earlier years at Bank of America in London, when trying to close a important transaction, I was able to call directly the CEO of the bank and ask him to put in a call to the CEO of the client and sort of provide support to my business development efforts over there. Whereas that would be impossible to do in a Japanese bank. You have to go through a very formal process. Um, Decision making in American organizations is very quick, but they also are perhaps a bit more short sighted. They plan on a quarterly basis. The Japanese plan on a long term basis, and the decision making is also very slow in comparison. And whereas one person makes the call in an American corporate culture and in a Japanese culture, you sometimes have lots of people, and decision making happens by consensus, but also over stages. And it has to go through consensus from the ground up towards the top. So I think you learn to be patient in a Japanese environment, but also when you do get a agreed decision, then the organization sticks with that strategy and doesn't sort of change it frequently. So it was a very interesting learning exercise, and I would say that working in both cultures was a very exciting opportunity for me, and I learned a lot from it.
Yeah, that's always amazing, and I believe it's a privilege to be able to work in different cultures and learn because it contributes a lot to our own self development just by observing. Because both are successful models, right, in their own way. So tell me about Islamic banking. Is it? I mean, how different is it from commercial banking, and particularly from people and talent strategy perspective, or even your product line that you offer?
So Islamic banking, obviously, at its heart, is based upon Sharia compliance. And there is a different approach, and it is about ethical sourcing of funds and then deploying those funds in an ethical manner. Um, but beyond that, in Pakistan, as you know, that there is a sort of a legal requirement for the industry to convert to Islamic, and so there is a conversion process that is taking place. And Islamic banking used to be maybe a decade or more earlier. It was still in its earlier growth stages, and I think just being Sharia compliant was a USP that you could trade on. But Islamic banking has evolved in Pakistan quite a lot. There are several banks that are operating purely as Islamic banks, and then there are a lot of the conventional banks that have Islamic banking arms. So, increasingly, in my opinion, being Islamic in itself is no longer a USP. And I certainly see it this way, that it is about doing the basic banking fundamentals better. It's about improving your customer value proposition. It's about building a brand, whose values resonate with our customer base, and ensuring that we have all of the innovative financial solutions that our customers are expecting. So essentially, the more Islamic banking develops in Pakistan, and certainly also with the conversion of the industry into Islamic, it will be about who's offering better banking services. And that is what we are trying to do at DIB, is to ensure that our overall value proposition is differentiated and offers greater value to our customers.
And what is your gender ratio in your top management? Because it's Sharia compliant. I'm just saying there's a perception, right? Is it male dominant or is it a female friendly environment?
So I'm very pleased to tell you that, and I've only been at DIB for about 5 months, and I was very pleased to discover that our female staff ratio is 22%,
That's nice.
which is considerably above the industry average, which is somewhere in the teens. It is not at the top end, but it is certainly well above the average. Where I did notice was that we had a gap at the senior management ranks. And it is a coincidence, but it's a coincidence that I'm very happy to own. That of the first four senior positions that I filled since I joined, the first three happened to be women. And so we have gone from having a vacuum in the senior ranks to having a pretty strong representation. So, our head of investment banking, our chief marketing officer, our chief risk officer happen to be women with very strong professional pedigrees. And so I think we've gone from a position of, um, say, relative weakness in terms of diversity at the senior levels to now I would think perhaps being toward amongst the better banks in this regard.
Yeah, I think that's a great score in terms of the talent scorecard, if I can talk about. Anyone who wants to pursue their career in banking, what advice would you give them in Pakistan?
So I think that although there are other career options that are emerging as good choices, perhaps I would say in Pakistan, banking still remains maybe at the top of the options that graduates find. And for the employers as well, it's usually we have access to the best talent. If I compare that with the U.S. and Europe, for instance, technology has displaced banks as the number one
Is
industry
it?
choice for the top graduates from the top schools. That hasn't quite yet happened in Pakistan, so it's still, I would say, one of the best choices available. And to those aspiring to a career in banking, I would say that be prepared, do your homework when you decide which organizations you want to apply to. Go there being well informed about the institution, what has been happening over there, and what are the sort of challenges that they're facing, what have been their achievements, and be just better informed about the economy and so on. Because what I would say is, and this is, I think, applicable to perhaps all industries, but a lot of times young people at starting out in their professional lives feel like there are not enough jobs and there's so many applicants for every job. But I just want to say that from an employer's perspective, we have the reverse problem. It appears to us that there are not enough good people. There's not enough good talent available. And so we struggle finding the right people. And so young job seekers can do themselves a lot of favor by being extremely well prepared to go to an interview and not treat it as a one-way interrogation, as I said. So I think the more prepared you are, you set yourselves apart from others. And apart from that, I think understanding your natural leanings. There are lots of different career tracks within banking. Banks hire technology people. We hire accountants. We hire lawyers, and we hire sort of analytically minded people also. So you have to just ensure that you're positioning yourself within the banking industry for a specific line that is, let's say, consistent with your own personal strengths and aspirations.
Okay, thank you so much. So one perception that I have, and I have to tell you, I started my career as a banker, but in consumer banking, so I don't know if I qualify as a full-fledged banker. But bankers are very formal. So we have a rapid fire round just to get to know you a little bit better and see the other side of you as well.
Sure.
So the first question, if you could fly anywhere right now, where would you go? And any restaurant actually, where would you go and what will you order?
I would fly to Lima in Peru, and I would order ceviche.
And what is ceviche?
Ceviche is a dish based on raw fish, which is not cooked, but it is cured in vinegar, and it has an assortment of fruits and vegetables added to it. It's a very sort of refreshing and interesting combination of flavors, and I grew to love it when I was living in London.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I'm gonna try as well next
And
time when I'm there.
it is basically Peruvian cuisine.
Yeah. And high protein and no sort of carb as
It's very
such.
healthy, low carbs,
Yeah.
and you know,
So one business leader, locally, internationally, that you'd like to have a one-to-one this week.
if I could, I would love to have a one-on-one with Nikolai Storonsky, who's the founder and CEO of Revolut. It's a amazing fintech company which has grown to a valuation of about $75 billion over the last few years, and I'm a customer as well, and I admire the company.
And what do they do exactly? I know it's a fintech company, but exactly what?
So it started out as a kind of a electronic wallet, which allowed you to hold multiple currencies, and it has evolved from that into a pretty full-fledged financial services company with a banking license. You can trade, you can invest from them. You can also deal in crypto, and basically still do the payments, the foreign currency. You can hold different currencies and convert them at very, very low cost. So it's a very user-friendly fintech.
So I'm gonna add. So what is it that you like about him?
So I think he created a company that very quickly became almost an indispensable service for its customers. And I can relate it to my own experience back in maybe 2016 when I was living in London, traveling quite a lot for work and also for personal reasons. And every time you traveled internationally, you use your cards, your credit card, and it ended up costing quite a lot in foreign transaction fees and the FX rate that they would charge. And a junior in my team mentioned about this new fintech company and this app. So I decided to give it a try. And in about 3 or 4 minutes, I opened my account. I obtained a virtual Visa card, and I transferred money from my bank account into that, and could trade in other currencies and hold those currencies in my wallet over there. So the speed and was amazing. The convenience of being able to trade the currencies was amazing, and also the service. It was delivering to ordinary people the FX exchange rates that only banks could access in the interbank market. So he pulled off something truly amazing, and I think that explains the very sort of rapid rise and growth of the company. So I would just ask him about
About
the
that journey.
journey.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. Most underrated skill in banking.
I think would have to be the ability to be a good listener. Bankers are often confident people, and often they like to talk. And the thing is that when you talk, you don't learn anything. So I think that the ability to just quietly listen and process, look at body language, just listen to. So in client meetings, for instance, you get a lot from just being quiet and listening and watching and observing. And if you're doing the talking the whole time, you don't learn anything. So I would say the ability to listen.
What's the most surprising thing that you've learned from your failure?
Maybe not from failure, but from near failure. I can recall I used to be a competitive runner in my school days. And I used to run middle distance, 800 meters, 1500 meters, 1 mile, etc. And if you see international races, the medium distance races, there is often a sprint, or is usually a sprint at the end, and the race gets decided in the last sort of 200 meters or so. And I was in a similar situation, fighting it out with one other runner in my school days. And I was giving everything I had, and I felt like I had nothing else left, no energy left in reserve. And I was about to give up and concede to my opponent. But just before I did that, he gave up and he dropped behind, and I was able to run to the finish line. And so I had absolutely no idea how close he was to giving up when I was about to do so. So I think that the key lesson that I took away from that is that perseverance is a very important attribute to winning, and you have to basically ensure that you're determined to see things through to the very end, and when others see that you're not giving up, they start doing so. So in a competitive environment, and I think when we're working, we're also competing. So it is very important to persevere, to have the belief that you can do it, and then put all your effort into the project, and then persevere and make sure you're the last person standing.
Yeah, no, thank you for the reminder, because Ali, I've been thinking when you mentioned the story, it's a brilliant story, because all of us, we go through those highs and lows, sometimes in our personal life, sometimes in our professional life, and especially, for example, now I'm building my business, there are highs and lows, and you do think about giving up at some stage. So thank you. I think it's a great reminder, even for individuals looking for a job, right? You never know when you get the opportunity. So yes. And finally, because I mean, we spoke about culture. Pakistan is a sahab culture, right? Sir, boss. So, and I know you're very approachable, because when you send when I send an email, you respond back, and if I call you, you respond, and I'm sure that's pretty much how you operate. So what is one area that you really dislike? You're like, I don't want that, but you still get that treatment. So I can tell you mine. Not now, when I used to work. So people would carry your stuff, and I'm like, let me carry. I mean, sometimes, of course, if it's heavy, it's okay. But I don't like people to carry my stuff. Like, anything for you?
So I think the same thing very much applies. That as a CEO, whenever I'm traveling with my colleagues, people want to carry my bag, and I just simply will not let them do so. One, out of respect for them, but also, I'm able-bodied, and why shouldn't I be carrying my own bag? And I think in my personal life, so I went to a boarding school, and for 5 years, we were basically taught to be self-sufficient, self-reliant. We used to have to polish our shoes maybe 3 or 4 times a day. I am fond of shoes. I have a collection of leather shoes, and I will not let my domestic helper touch them. Every couple of months, I get them all out, on the floor, and I spend a couple of hours sort of taking care of them myself. And I've had to sometimes sort of forcibly and firmly, tell him, no, you are not allowed to touch them. I'll do this myself. So.
Ali, what's your favorite music?
So in Pakistani music, I'm very fond of this album by Zeb and Hania called Chup. Personally, I think it's maybe the best pop album ever made in Pakistan. It's jazzy, it has brass, it has complexity, and something you don't get tired of. So I listen to it a lot. I'm also very fond of a kind of a Qawwali and flamenco fusion that I heard in London once by an artist called Faiz Ali Faiz, and it's something I listen to a lot. Then there is some music back from my university days, bands like Alphaville, which is a German band, New Order, The Cure, which I'm very fond of. And when I'm in a kind of a relaxing mood, I will listen to Katie Melua and maybe Nora Jones. So those are the artists that I'm usually listening to.